How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am back for another comic book video. And I'm doing an interesting one this time. One that I wasn't sure I was going to go ahead and do. But it's one that I thought would be perfect for this occasion. I'm going to be doing Radioactive Man.
But Dad, isn't he a...
Yes, he is.
Does that mean...
Yes, it does.
So you're doing a...
Yes, I am.
I'm gonna go outside.
Careful, there's an epidemic out there.
I know.
Calling it an epidemic, it's a pandemic. Anyways, I think this is a perfect person to go over, considering the date of the release of this video. So let's go ahead and discuss his first appearance. There's a little contention behind this, and we'll go ahead and get into this. So let's get started. Radioactive Man, Claude Kane, first appeared in one of two comic books first. It's still under debate. He either appeared first in Adrenaline Comics #1 or Interesting Stories number 27. I am not quite sure of the date, but if you could find the date of those comics, then you'll know what year he appeared in. He wouldn't get his own comic until 1952, which was penned by the longtime writer and creator of Radioactive Man, Morty Man. Now, Morty Man does claim that Radioactive Man first appeared in Mystery Stories number 15 first. Whether he did or didn't is just going to be under debate, but we'll just take it for what the debate is. Now, Morty Man has been a part of the Radioactive Man comics even up till the most latest iteration of them. Now, most people consider Radioactive Man's first appearance with his sidekick Fallout Boy to be in Interesting Stories numbers 27 when he fought the communist bloc. Now, even though Radioactive Man is his own character, he is actually kind of a reboot of a previous character known as Radio Man. Now, Radioactive Man has his own catchphrase, just as all of the people did up in there. Up and Atom. And there would be a character that was a spoof of Radioactive Man called Radiation Dude, who was trying to be cool, and his catchphrase was "Up and let's go." Wow, they really racked their brains coming up with that one, wasn't it? But it was better than one of his other catchphrases, which was "Jumping Jeepers." Now, there was a time, I believe in the 70s, where Alan Moore actually did some stories for Radioactive Man. This was some really stupid stuff, because his take on Radioactive Man was a heroin-addicted jazz critic who was not radioactive. But most of the stories that have been done by Radioactive Man have been consistent to who he is. Now, the Radioactive Man has had a lot of media appearances. He's been pretty much in televisions and film since about the very beginning. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what he's done in the media, cover a little bit of the films, and get into where he's been at most recently. So let's get into talking about his journey throughout the years in the media. Now, Radioactive Man enjoyed some massive popularity pretty much from when he debuted. In the 1950s, he would appear in a TV series and do some film serials. The series and the serials were both sponsored by Laramie Cigarettes, because back then cigarettes could sponsor things and not be looked at as being evil, as most people consider cigarettes to be today. Now, if you're not familiar with film serials, film serials would be like a number of episodes of TV shows, but they would all be filmed together as one, and you would watch them as independent episodes, but since they were all filmed at the same time, it was a continuational thing, and then later they would be grouped in as a movie where you would watch it all at once. Now, the one who appeared in the TV series and the film serials would be Dick Richer. He did play Radioactive Man, and Fall Out Boy was played by Buddy Hodges. The series was so popular at one time, he even had a crossover episode with I Love Lucy. Yes, Lucille Ball. Now, in the 70s, they came up with a very campy version of Radioactive Man. They would have such villains as the Scoutmaster. Yeah, it was silly and campy. Had a very cartoonish opening theme show. Would show things like Bow, Baff, and Boom, and then they would all end up dancing after he beat the minions of whatever villain they were going up against. Now, later in that decade, the Radioactive Man popularity would actually spawn a trio of movies. The first one named Radioactive Man, second one Radioactive Man 2, Bring On the Sequel, and Radioactive Man 3, Oh God, Not Again. Now, each one of these movies would star the world-famous actor Troy McClure, and you may have seen Troy McClure in other superhero-related projects. Yes, that Troy McClure. The third film also starred Krusty the Clown as the villain Krusto the Evil Clown. And also an interesting little tidbit, Buddy Hodges would actually appear in the third film, but he would be Fall Out Boy's great-grandfather. I love it when they can bring back characters from a previous series, not as the person who they are, but in some way related to them. It's a way to pay homage to the people who came before. Now, there was a Radioactive Man, the animated series, with Paul Dinn, and he was the writer and story editor. This would also see the creation of Dr. Crab and his minion Haley Claw for the series. Now, Radioactive Man was so popular, they tried doing a live-action movie in 1995 starring Rainier Wolfcastle. And Rainier Wolfcastle, I don't want to say that he's a bad actor. He's kind of a one-note actor. If you want to see the range of his action films, just watch the McBain movies, and you'll see who Rainier Wolfcastle, what he does. Krusty the Clown was going to be premiering in the movie as two different villains, Dr. Clownius and Silly Sailor. Now, they were going to have Fall Out Boy in the movie. They actually got a local from the town that they were filming in. His name was Milhouse Van Houten. Now, there were a number of on-scene accidents. The boy who was playing Fall Out Boy couldn't handle the pressure. and they went over budget on the movie, so the movie was never actually able to come out. The latest thing that Radioactive Man was able to do was they got the Broadway musical Radioactive Man Hose Down the Burn. Now, I don't know if the musical is still going on. There seems to be a lot of accidents associated with the Broadway production, whether intentional or not. But it is famous for having a number of accidents. So I don't know if there's a curse being carried with it, but hey, it's Broadway. And now let's go over the powers of Radioactive Man. We're going to include all of the powers that he has now, not just what he originally started with. What?
The hats.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's backwards.
But never mind.
Let's get started. Now, such as all superheroes who have been around for this long, his powers have been retooled and changed over the years. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to cover the latest iteration of his powers. Since I can't necessarily say what exactly his powers were when he first came out, because I don't have those comic books, based on when he's adopted new powers over the years, we'll just go with who he is and what he is now for his powers. Radioactive Man has hyper keen senses, which means just take your normal senses that you have and pump them up to the hyper level. Now, he can fly up to 115 miles per hour and has the capability of lifting 5,000 pounds. He is invulnerable, essentially immortal. His invulnerability is so strong that tank shells bounce right off of him. Now, he is not affected by bullets, but for some yet unknown reason, he feels the sting of bullets, even though they don't hurt him. He does have the ability to produce light and heat. He can shoot nuclear heat from his eyes, which doesn't actually affect his eyes because he also has enhanced vision. How do I say this? He says that his powers are due to pure, clean energy, which that's got to be a satirical take on his powers because he's radioactive. Now, I say he's near immortal because in his comic books, he's actually died more than once. He's actually died a couple of times. In fact, it was the trope of him for a while. But they have retooled him over the years when you can tell how close he is to dying by the radioactive symbol on his chest. It's as his life force fades, so does the symbol. Before dying, it would fade to a half-life, then a quarter life, and to an eighth life. Because radioactivity does break down over time. So his life reducing like that is kind of emblematic to how radiation can break down over time. Takes a long time for radiation to break down, but it eventually does. Now, back in the time of Richard Nixon being president, Radioactive Man struggled with nausea and motion sickness while flying, which is really rather weird because that's one of his powers. But Richard Nixon did give him Dramamine to help with He has to take something for motion sickness to fly. Okay. He got Dramamine so he can handle the motion sickness. He can attract lightning storms from the metal rod that he wears on his chest, or on his head, but he can't remove the metal rod, and that's actually something we'll get into. And from time to time, he often struggles with depression. And if you can find the issues where he battled depression, you'll find that you'll either find it a very interesting read or incredibly boring because of what he's struggling with. Like any other great superhero who has been around for this long, his origin story has changed a bit over the years. So what we're going to do is discuss his most latest origin story, the one that's come out most recently about him. And then, wow, this mask is getting stuffy.
We will be discussing the other forms over the years.
Claude Kane is the son of Dr. Claude Kane II, which would make Radioactive Man Claude Kane III. He grew up in Xena City and lost his mother at a young age. She was an aviatrix, which is a female pilot. She disappeared while taking a flight around the world, and without a mother figure to properly guide him, he became a frivolous playboy and socialite. Now, some years later, after graduating from school, he found some communists who wanted to kill his father. I'm suspecting he must have thwarted the plan somehow and started to pursue the killers. His father was not actually killed. After taking a wrong turn, he ended up on the nuclear testing site where they tested a bomb which detonated near him and gave him superpowers. But he has a lightning bolt piece of shrapnel in his head that he cannot remove. After this, in his civilian identity, he would conceal it somehow. But I think the lightning bolt has something to do with his powers. Now, he would protect Xena City as Radioactive Man. Now, Radioactive Man is sometimes doesn't actually understand things the way that normal people would, because his upbringing was different from all of us. He's a little naive, inept, and simplistic. Now, as a lot of Golden Age characters do, he was in love with a female journalist named of Gloria Grand. Now, this is one of those typical love triangle things that you would normally find in the Golden Age. He has affections for her, but she hates his civilian identity, but is in love with his superhero identity. That's a very common trope. Later on, Radioactive Man would adopt Rod Rutledge, who would become Fallout Boy, and helped raise him in his containment dome, where he did his superheroing from. Now, let's briefly go over some of the Radioactive Man alternates. Now, there was a Dark Radioactive Man, and in one of the issues where Radioactive Man had died yet again, they had his funeral, and Fallout Boy removed the shrapnel, the lightning bolt, metal lightning bolt from his head. And what happened is this effectively had him rise as Dark Radioactive Man. Radioactive Man, basically the evil alternate version, which it wasn't an alternate version, it was actually him, evil. They were able to restore the lightning bolt and bring him back to power, but he knows that he could never, it was saying they could never safely remove the lightning bolt without causing that version to come back. but he's still trying to find ways to properly, remove the lightning bolt, because, after a while, you don't want that. Radioactive Man Beta. Now, this is actually Radioactive Man from another universe, the Betaverse. They have all the same, they're basically the same person from two different universes, and when they've ever had to team up, they've had a little contention because each one of them claims to be the original Radioactive Man. The one from Beta has a smaller chest emblem, but they are essentially the same person, so they argue over who's who. Now, there was a Radioactive Boy, and he comes from the Substitute Earth, and he apparently appeared back in the 50s. Now, he had a power, he went to a nuclear test site and got caught in the explosion trying to save a dog. So him and the dog both gained radioactive powers. Now, the Radioactive Boy, he has powers, but he's not as strong as Radioactive Man. He can't lift quite as much and can't go quite as fast, but he's still got a decent amount of powers in his own right. Now, there was a clone of the Radioactive Man, and at one point, Radioactive Man thought that the clone had died by falling into a barbecue pit. That's just completely ridiculous. The clone had managed to come back, but had some of his parts replaced with cybernetics. The clone had outmatched Radioactive Man physically and might have actually been more popular, but Radioactive Man was able to beat his clone by hiring his lawyer and having the clone served with cease and desist orders. That's ridiculous. He used his lawyer to beat a clone for copyright infringement. There was also a robot double that he used the robot double to act as either his civilian identity as Claude Kane or be Radioactive Man when Radioactive Man was Claude. It was basically, if anybody got the idea that these two were the same, he could, have the robot step in to make sure that nobody got these two mixed up. Happy April Fool's Day, everyone. I hope you got the joke. This Radioactive Man is a character from The Simpsons. He didn't exist in the Golden Age.
Dad, the poster, it's still, the Wonder Woman, it's still upside down.
Point.
I think you should, flip it.
Why would I flip it while I'm on camera?
Because...
Go back to playing Batman.
Fine!
Okay, like I said, I hope you enjoyed the April Fool's Day video. I hope you enjoyed the small parts that Jacob played. I couldn't resist. It's my favorite holiday. So, until next time, I'll be seeing you.